the college football playoff has announced that they have agreed on, and we've talked some about this, the 5+7 format. I don't think this is a huge surprise with the landscape. It had initially been the 6-6 format, which was 6 conference champions plus 6 at large, but you're basically losing a conference, so you had to do something because the Pac-12 is dying. So now it is going to be the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 7 at-large teams in the college football playoff. Not a huge surprise.
No, and, the Pac-12 just announced their new commissioner.
What's this person going to do?
They throw a bone to Teresa Good.
Right.
Or Gold. First woman Power 5 commissioner. Well, it's not really the Power 5 anymore.
Yeah, I would say so.
You got
enjoy
2
that while you can.
institutions. This is no surprise. I mean, it's what they should have done. I mean, you can't have Oregon State or Washington State getting a seat at this.
The 4 highest-ranked conference champions, this is not a ton new, I'm just going to tell you what has been approved. The 4 highest-ranked conference champions seeded 1 through 4 and get the first round bye. The team seeded 5 through 12 play one another in the first round on the home field of the higher-ranked team. Quarterfinals and semifinals played in New Year's 6 bowl games, national championship game at a neutral site.
So 1 through 5, you would have had Michigan. Did you say the 5 and 7? Yeah.
Yeah, 5 and 7. Yeah, and no, but let me quickly say this: there's not a conference that qualifies automatically, and there's no limit on the number of participants from a conference. They say that, but I think we all know who's going to qualify automatically. But they don't say that the SEC champion or the Big Ten champion automatically qualifies.
Yeah. So in order for a Group 5 to actually get a seat with one of the automatics, they've got to be in the top.
Well, to get a bye, they'd have to be in the top 4, which is
impossible.
Cincinnati did it, but
Cincy did it. Boise did it way back in the day.
Way back in the day, but it's pretty much impossible now. Yeah. So 5-12, 6-11, 7-10, and 8-9 play on the higher seeded home field.
I think more interesting is going to be, how are we placing these? We know we've got 1 on-campus round. Do we eventually get to 2 on-campus rounds?
I hope you do.
Yeah, me too.
I hope you do. And I think you're more likely, Lance, rather than to do that, to get to 16 teams. That way there's no first-round buys. Right. So everybody is playing on campus.
Yeah, so
even
you
your
would
top
have
4 seeds.
8, then 4, then you figure out the current format now with...
Yeah, with 16, everybody just play 1 versus 16. Georgia plays whoever the 16 team is. 2, Ohio State plays 15. I mean, it's pretty simple at that point.
8 games on campus, 4 games on campus, and then you take the semifinals somewhere else in the national championship.
So that has been officially approved. Don't think it's any huge surprise there, but it has been approved. So we are on to the 12-team playoff era now. One of the problems is that first week of the college football playoff is it falls during signing day. Signing day is that Wednesday, I think it is. The first signing day, and the games are Saturday. Of course, that is a complete and total mess. I don't know if anybody is ever going to address that. The NCAA would be the one that would have to change it. I don't know, what their impetus is on changing it, but they are the ones that would have to change it because that is a complete. Can you imagine having signing day on a Wednesday and you got to play a college football playoff game on a Friday or Saturday? That's stupid.
No. Yeah, they're going to do something with that window anyway.
Yeah. But the actual, once you get into the bowls, those games will be played around, they're always going to be played around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Is where, those traditional bowl games will be played. And then you're going to get some Wednesday and Thursday games as well. It's going to be, it's not going to be like you've seen it before. January 20th is next year's national championship game, and that's in Atlanta. To put that in perspective,
it is getting pushed all the way to January
20th. Put that in perspective. This year's was January 8th. I mean, it's almost 2 weeks later now.
Well, and this is why I think the NFL is always going to lead. They're never going to follow. But I do think if the NFL would get their calendar right, I think it would line up with President's Day. And I looked earlier this year. I was looking at results from former Super Bowls. You never had a Super Bowl that leaked into February. And now they're going into the second week of February. So what is one more week to push back if you're the NFL to line it up and get that, the elusive day off the day after the Super Bowl, which becomes a national holiday. And I think it's more celebrated, not necessarily for President's Day, but more for the day after the Super Bowl.
So in 2024, your first round is going to be a Friday night game, December 20th. Your second round will be 3 games on Saturday, the 21st. So that's when it will be played. And if I'm not mistaken, again, I think signing day is December 18th of this coming year, of this year. So that's going to be right before those games. Completely stupid. But you're going to have one Friday, 2 Saturday games. Just my opinion, I think they should adjust that to 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. I don't know what the NFL is going to do. That is traditionally an NFL date, Saturday the 21st.
Yeah,
you don't want to go head-to-head with that.
Yeah, 2 Fridays tough, though, because where do you stack them?
Well, you would have to. You're going to have a West Coast game, and because you're going to have not necessarily. I was going to say you're going to have a West Coast team, but not anymore without the Pac-12.
Yeah, USC
tough.
or Oregon or Washington might be able to sneak in for the Big Ten, but I don't think you can count on that year in, year out. And you've already got like major events like the National Championship coming up on Monday, April, whatever the date is. That game won't tip till 9:37 Eastern time?
Yeah, it's crazy how late it tips.
Yeah, so they try to appeal to everyone, and stacking them up on Friday to me would be really difficult. I think a triple header on Saturday is simple. I love the option of having at least one Friday game. I think that's great. But a triple header on Saturday is easy to execute.
Yeah, it is. It is going to be a little bit messy. You then get the Peach and the Fiesta, which is December 31st, a Tuesday night, New Year's Eve for the Fiesta, and the New Year's Day for their night or whatever for the Peach. It's actually an early game. That is a Wednesday. Your middle of the day game is going to be the Rose, and then your late game is going to be the Sugar. Then your semifinals will be the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. The Cotton Bowl will be January 9th, a Thursday night Orange Bowl in prime time. The Cotton Bowl, January 10th, a Friday night, and then January 20th is your championship game. So there is a chance you could play a Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. I mean, it's going to be a complete mess. It's going to be a complete mess, but maybe we'll get used to it. I don't know. I mean, the way they kind of have to dance this schedule around the NFL makes it and keep these New Year's Day tie-ins to these bowl games that are hell-bent on playing on New Year's Day. Yeah. I mean, it's making it complicated.
Yeah, here's your problem. Let's just say that you are we'll just say you're a Tennessee fan.
All right.
If Tennessee gets really good in the next couple of years.
All right, let's say, so are they the conference champion?
We'll say they're the conference champion.
That gives them a bye. Let's don't make them a conference champion.
Then we'll say that they're 10-2.
Let's say they're the 5 seed. Let's say they're the 5 seed. Their only loss, was to Georgia or whatever. All right, so they're the 5 seed.
Okay, so if you're a Tennessee fan, you basically have to take a month off of work if you're going to. Now, you would get a home game.
You at least get a home game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't know where you could actually. If you're working at a job.
If you're a 9 seed that just gets hot, I say hot, but an SEC team that's really good could be a 9 seed. That's not crazy to think about, right?
This year, it wouldn't work seating-wise, but Ole Miss finished 11-2 and 9th overall.
They're probably all right. So let's say Ole Miss just gets hot. I know, but all right. No, we don't even have to do that. Texas was in the league. Okay.
Oh, by the way, Ohio State finished up number 10 at 11-2.
Let's say Texas was already in the league. So Ohio State, that's a good example. They were number 10. All right. So they're a 10 seed and they get hot. They're going to play. Let's say they play a Friday night road game, December 20th. And now they're in the semifinals. And
by the way, you got to balance all this around Christmas.
Exactly. Now they're in the semifinals. They get a Tuesday night Fiesta Bowl. So we've played a road game somewhere. We get a Fiesta Bowl. What'd you say they were the 10? Who was the 7?
The 7 was Oregon.
So they're at Oregon. They're in the Fiesta Bowl. And now they're going to be, in one of these orange or cotton. Let's say they go to the orange. So they've had Eugene, Oregon, Phoenix, Arizona, Miami, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an Ohio State fan. How am I going to afford that?
I don't know.
Which one do you go to?
You're talking about a $25,000, $30,000 month, and I don't even know if I'm including tickets on that.
Yeah.
If you were to do all of them, and there's going to be some fans that are going to try to attempt to do all of these games. It's not realistic. I wonder how many NFL, if you don't have home field, I don't know the last team to go on the road and just win game after game after game.
Pittsburgh did it, some time ago as the 8 seed, did they not?
Yeah, the Giants did it at 9-7 and going on the road and winning all those games. But I just don't think realistically you can pull it off. Bengals were the last time we've seen this. So they hosted Vegas on a Saturday.
See, at least they got a home game.
Yeah. Then they've got to go to Tennessee, not a far drive.
Yeah.
Or for flight, the very next Saturday. Then you got to go to KC the next Sunday, and then you go all the way to L.A. for the Super Bowl.
As Bob points out, what about your conference championship game, too? I mean, take Texas, for instance.
Yeah,
Take Texas. I mean, they're going to have to come all the way to Atlanta for a conference championship game. And you better believe the first time Texas is in the SEC championship game, they're going to sell the joint out. Yeah.
But if I'm look, and I know it's in Georgia's backyard, but if I'm Georgia or Alabama or LSU, and I've been in this situation before, I'm probably like not that important. Now, where it gets important, and we talked about this on Bama and Bourbon yesterday, is you don't want to be 10-2 going to that game. Because if you lose the SEC championship or any of these conference championship, it's a good chance you're out. So you would rather be 10-2 sitting at home. But if I'm one of these fans of a team and they're undefeated or they've got one loss, they go to a conference championship game, I'm probably saving my money.
You know, that was the question we asked last year. Going to Atlanta, Georgia was the overall number 1, right? Alabama was playing Georgia, but had Texas been in the league, Texas would have been playing Georgia.
Right.
And would you have wanted to be Alabama or Texas in that situation? Would you want to be a one-loss team going to play Georgia? You're going to drop down. Or would you want to be one-loss Alabama where, regardless of the outcome, I'm probably the 5 seed?
Yeah,
I'm not going to be a 4 because I'm going to be a conference champion, but I'm a 5 hosting a home game.
I would rather be the 5 hosting the home game.
See, and now we've created a situation where it can be undesirable to go to your conference championship game, and I don't want that to be the case.
Well, and that's the way it's going to be. Not only undesirable, I mean, for the fan, it's bad, but for the team, even worse. If you've got a team that would rather sit at home, and again, we're talking about head coaches that go to a sheet of paper, they forget the gut, and they go to analytics. Well, the analytics are going to tell you got a better chance of staying home being that 5 seed than going and playing.
Yeah, now Jay says the first time it cost an SEC team a spot, the playoff will either expand or conference championships go away. I just cannot foresee it costing the SEC a spot because keep in mind there are no divisions anymore. Top 2 SEC teams play. Your worst case scenario would be a 10-2 team, and I have a. Yeah, I'm not even sure you'll get that a ton.
But here's the thing: you say that, I think you're going to have a lot of 10-2s because they're going to cannibalize each other in this really deep conference with these ridiculous schedules.
But you're going to have that out of the Big Ten too. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, a 10-2 is going to become a more normalized record in college football.
Yeah, but that 10-2 goes to 10-3 when you lose a game.
It does, but a 10-2 SEC team going into that game is probably going to be ranked 4th or 5th. Are they going to fall all the way past 12?
I don't know. I would feel confident if Dunaway was here, and I don't know where he would be on this, but either the loser of the Big Ten or SEC championship game this year will be out.
Keep in mind, whoa, say that again.
I think either the loser of the Big Ten or SEC championship game will not get into this college football playoff. I think one of those teams will be 10-2 and will ultimately lose a game and go 10-3. And I think there's going to be a 10-3 that is on the outside.
I would take that bet against you, and here's why.
Well, it's going to be tricky the first year. They've got to figure this out a little bit.
But here's why. This is why they want to hold on to the selection committee and not go back to some sort of public poll like the BCS. Because, Lance, the selection committee can hear the voices of Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, the 2 commissioners, and react to those voices, right? The selection committee can come out and say, listen, we know Oregon had 3 losses. We're well aware of that. But Oregon got their 3rd loss in the conference championship game against Ohio State, and we just don't believe a team should be penalized for losing their conference championship game, so we made Oregon the 12th seed. That's why I don't think you'll be correct, because I think those conference commissioners are too strong, have too big of a voice to let a team be penalized for playing in their conference championship game, because they make a lot of money in TV deals off those conference championship games, and they do not want them going away.
Okay, this could be a bad example.
All right.
But in the Big Ten this year, and look, we're not going to have division, so things do change.
Yeah, so this year you would have had Ohio State-Michigan rematch, right?
No.
In the Big Ten
championship. You would have. Yeah. But you had 10-2 Iowa, who was ranked 16th.
That's right, but they sit at home, so they're in. Yeah. Well, no, they're ranked 16th. They're not in, obviously.
So they lost the game, and they would end up being out.
Yeah. But you would have had Ohio State, Michigan, and I can't remember where Ohio State was going. I think they were 5th, right, going into that last weekend. There's no way they drop all the way past 12 if they lost back-to-back to Michigan.
I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting if you have 4 or 5 teams that have 10-2s.
Yeah.
Now, John over there is saying 10-2 will not be a normal record. That's statistically impossible. I think we've got a lot of 10-2s now.
I don't know what he means by statistically impossible. I'm just saying it's going to be more normalized. Teams are going to play tougher schedules. The schedules in the Big Ten and the SEC are getting tougher, right or wrong?
They're getting tougher.
100% they're getting tougher. So there's going to be more teams that are going to up 10-2. Maybe not more total teams, but I mean, like, it's going to be more normal for Ohio State to be 10-2 or Alabama to be 10-2 or Georgia to be 10-2 than it has been. Used to 10-2, you're done for the year. Now 10-2, you're in the college playoff. You may be in the SEC championship game.
Okay, so who all was 10-2 this year? I think Ole Miss was 10-2. Missouri was 10-2.
Yeah.
Was LSU 10-2? Maybe 9-3.
No, I think they were 9-3. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're going to see plenty of 10-2s.
Bob says, could we have teams playing 3 times like Bama and Georgia? Absolutely, you could.
Yep.
You could play regular season, conference championship game, and then easily meet in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we see that in the NFL about every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, divisional too. I mean, Miami did it with the Bills last year.
Yeah, I mean,
to make that point. I mean, Miami and Buffalo played 3 times, 2 regular season and once in the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
It happens frequently in the NFL.
Like and the Rams did it the last time the Rams won the Super Bowl in 21.
Yeah. And Miami narrowly avoided it this year, and they almost had to play Buffalo. If they had won the game in the last of the regular season, they played Buffalo again.
Yeah, look,
back-to-back games.
I know it seems like there's a lot of fatigue when it comes to that, but once you get to the postseason, it's a different feel.
Yeah.
I mean, did you not feel different?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, we were at Buffalo. I did not. Now, to be honest with you, I did not want to get them back-to-back games this year, but we ended up going to the frozen tundra of Kansas City. It didn't matter either way, I guess. But I was not looking forward to playing them again. But it's just the way that, the other option, Lance, is not to be in the playoffs. Which one do you want? I'd rather be in the playoffs. Yeah.